My name is Kaya and this is John, and we're here at Valkyrie Western Martial Arts Assembly to address a question that recently came up in some discussions around trying to protect people in your community from predators. So a couple guys I've talked to have mentioned that they sometimes feel like something might be up in an interaction, usually between a man and a woman, but not always. And they think they maybe should intervene, but they don't know what the relationship between these people is, whether they maybe know each other. She might be smiling, might seem like she's okay with what's going on, and can make people really hesitate and not step in where there's a problem. What we wanted to do today is give you guys a couple of basic tools for looking at an interaction that's happening nearby, but maybe not so close that you can hear what people are saying. And do a quick assessment, a quick kind of gut check of whether things are as pleasant as they look, or whether maybe one of the people in the conversation doesn't actually want to be there. We're going to start by talking a little bit about body language, and in particular the kind of body language that indicates that somebody is uncomfortable and actually wants to leave a situation but doesn't feel like they can, whether that's for physical reasons or for social ones. And then we're going to talk a little bit around social distances, how close people like to be to each other, and some of the ways in which predators can manipulate that, and potential targets can use it as a form of boundary setting. This is by no means comprehensive. All of this material is extracted from our much longer self-defense programming, but it should give you some really good starting points for deciding that there is actually a problem in the interaction that you're seeing.
When a person feels safe, their body relaxes. There's not a lot of tension in their muscles. Their posture is open and usually pretty upright. And their body language is loose and expressive. If they feel threatened, their body's going to tighten up and pull inwards. So their shoulders might come up to protect their neck and their throat. And they might use their limbs to cover vulnerable areas like the front of the torso and the groin. You'll often see people visibly shrink as they become uncomfortable. A happy, comfortable person's movements are calm and relaxed. An uncomfortable person's movements are tense and jittery and bouncy, as their body bleeds off energy that it would rather be using to run away. They may make repetitive movements to try to calm themselves down. They may fidget, and their eyes may wander all over the room and especially towards the exits. If somebody's genuinely engaged in a conversation, they'll turn their whole body towards the person they're talking to, and they may even lean forward or otherwise close the space between themselves and their conversation partner. If they'd rather be elsewhere, their body is going to show it. They might use the arm and leg closest to the person they're talking to form a subtle barrier. They might lean their torso away to make a little bit of extra space, and their feet are probably going to be pointed towards an exit. Not everyone expresses discomfort the same way, and you may not see all of these body language cues at once. But if you see 3 things that all point to somebody being less happy than they should be in an interaction, that's enough to go on. The distance between 2 people can tell you a lot about their relationship. This is stranger distance. People who don't know each other will stay as far apart as possible and avoid all unnecessary contact. Acquaintance distance lets people come close enough to have a conversation without shouting, while maintaining enough distance that incidental physical contact is very easy to avoid. If there is contact, it'll be something very limited, like a handshake. Friendly distance requires a little more trust, as it's at or just inside arm's reach. This means that contact is easy and maybe frequent, although it's going to be limited to relatively short touches and contact in neutral areas like shoulders or elbows, or maybe a brief hug. Intimate distance requires the most trust and comfort. It's very close, and there's a lot of lingering contact, sometimes in vulnerable areas like the small of the back or the back of the neck. If you look at mine and John's body language here, you may notice that we've both become uncomfortable because this is not a natural distance for our relationship. One way that predators operate is by closing to friendly or intimate distance with strangers or casual acquaintances. And this can create the illusion of a more trusting and deep relationship than actually exists. Here, our target tries to reset to a more comfortable distance, and the predator doesn't let her stay there, thus violating a boundary that she's tried to set. The same kind of boundary testing can happen while seated, but the target has fewer options for escape and moving away. Here, she's responding to an incidental contact by trying to maintain distance, and when it becomes apparent that the predator's not going to let her do that, we very quickly see her body language becoming uncomfortable. She gets tense, she puts up a physical wall, and her body is moving as far away from him as it can without actually leaving her seat, all while she keeps talking and keeps smiling because she's socially trapped.
All right, so we've just given you a whole bunch of cues that you can use to decide, oh yeah, there might be a problem in that interaction, and it looks like what we might have here is not just a friendly conversation, but a predator and a target. So what do? A lot of people, when they think about bystander intervention, assume that right away you have to go like marching in and punch the predator and drag the target away to safety. But that's often not something that we can do socially. And when people think that's their only option, they don't really take action. So here are a couple of lower key things you can do. First one is a distraction of some kind. If you know either of the people involved, this gets a lot easier. If you're, friends with the target, go in and tell them you need something from them, or that another friend is looking for them, or ask them if they can help you find the bathroom, or any other of a million socially acceptable excuses that will allow them to make an exit from the conversation. If you know the predator, go in, start talking to them, see if you can engage them for long enough that the target has the option to get the hell out of there. If that seems really socially risky to you, or if you don't know either of the two people involved and you're worried that it'll just make the target feel even more unsafe or more threatened, then another really good option is to tell somebody else. If you know somebody is a friend of the targets or a friend of the predators, you can let them know what's going on. If they're a friend of the predators, make sure that there's somebody who is trustworthy and safe. And again, they can go forward and they can distract. Or if you don't have anybody like that to talk to, then there's always the option of calling in an authority figure. If you're at, say, a martial arts event, this could be one of the organizers or a volunteer in charge or one of the instructors at the hosting club. If you're out at a bar, this could be the bartender or a bouncer. If you're not really sure what to do, but you've got a friend who is real big and intimidating and willing to step into things like this, then you can tell them. The point is that once you're sure that there's a problem, it's on you to do something about it. But it's also your right to find the way of intervening that keeps you and the target the safest. So think about this stuff a little bit in advance. Figure out what kinds of interventions you're comfortable making and use those as part of your plan. So you can go, okay, well, I'm actually pretty good at making small talk, so maybe I'll go in and I can do the distracty thing with people that are, especially if they're part of like the martial arts community or another circle that I'm comfortable with. Or if you're somebody who's really non-confrontational and is really worried about getting hurt or becoming a target yourself, then when you're going to an event where something like this might happen, figure out who you're going to use as your backup in advance. There are always tools that are available to you that you can use to make a situation safer, and your life gets a lot easier if you start thinking about them in advance. If you're aware of what's going on around you, and if you've got plans for taking care of problems, you're so far ahead of the game and you're going to become a real asset to your community. So go forth and make your friends or yourself safer. Thank you.